Thank you for joining us. As I mentioned, this is our first ever virtual member meetup. Meetups like this are very important to our boxing family as we move forward, and we're inspired by the number of members who have joined us today and actually are interested in joining us through the record of this video. Today's situation will change the way our world operates moving forward. We realize that, and once we're allowed, we want to be ready to move forward in the new normal, which is going to be very different, I'm sure, from what we're all used to. It's already having an impact on our boxing clubs here in Ontario. This kind of meeting will be the beginning of a new movement, allowing ongoing communication within our community. These meetings will be a good opportunity to get the wheels turning for the members to develop concepts, discussions, and solutions. It's also to keep us all inspired, which is going to lead into what this meetup is all about. So the purpose for today's session will be to bring our boxing family together and provide some positive and constructive resources. We want to keep the athletes, coaches, and officials motivated to keep active, healthy, especially while we're all going through this challenging time. This meetup will be the first of many. We will be doing future meetings to roll out information and plans as they become available. Again, this is my first time doing it, so again, bear with me with all of the technical difficulties we might have today, but just really looking forward to it. The current situation right now, as it stands, it's amazingly only been 2 weeks, and the situation is still day by day. We're unable to project when we can even open the doors to our gyms again. The registered clubs, all of you guys should be checking your emails as we're sending out updates as we receive them from the government, the Ministry of Ontario, and from Boxing Canada. Today, actually, all of you were sent a document outlining the COVID-19 government financial supports. So if any of you guys have any questions or need clarification on this material, anything that comes out to you guys in the future or anything that's coming to you, please feel free to forward information as it comes or also respond in reply to the correspondence we're sending out. A lot of it's even for myself, is very difficult to sort through sometimes. So again, we're receiving a lot of information day by day, and we need to talk it through and work it through together. For today's meeting, we've pulled together some inspirational members of our boxing family to keep us all motivated, so I'm pretty sure we all need that right now. The team will share their journey, suggestions, and resources on staying active and involved. Just give me a second here. So before we move on to what we're going to be doing for this meeting, sorry, I'm just going to adjust the picture here so you guys can all see it. Before we get started, we'd like to take this opportunity to honor Peter Sauerman, someone we all know and love. He's a Boxing Ontario family member who recently passed on and is now with his lovely wife, Grace. His dedication to our sport developed into a long list of champions, including Olympians Dwight Frazier in 1984 and Troy Ross in 1996 and 2000. In addition, Peter has provided the incredible opportunity to local and international boxers in hosting the world-famous Brampton Cup tournament for nearly 4 decades. In the words of Remley Boxing, he will be remembered as an ambassador of Ontario amateur boxing and had great impact on the lives of countless boxers, referees, and coaches. Rest in peace, Coach Peter. You are loved by all and will be greatly missed. Peter was inducted into the, or actually is to be inducted into the Ontario Boxing Hall of Fame on May 30th of this year, which will obviously be postponed because of the situation, but it will happen. So please take a moment with us as we honor Peter with the traditional boxing 10-bell salute. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I'm just gonna adjust it again. I'm not sure if you guys can see it clearly. There we go. So my name is Jennifer Huggins. I guess I'll turn my video on so that you guys can see me in a second. I'm just trying to figure out how it all works. But my name is Jennifer Huggins. I've recently taken the position of Boxing Ontario president. I'm also the owner of Kingsway Boxing in Toronto and the founder of Fight to End Cancer. I've spent the past 6 years traveling as a 3-star international referee and judge. But I'm most honored to have this opportunity to invest back into our sport within Canada, especially Ontario, which is the home to some of the top boxers historically and in the present day. So I guess I'll start my video here so you guys can see me. Hi, I'm Jen. Today's meetup is going to feature rival boxing founder and TV personality Russ Anber, Olga and Teresa Heron of the world-class Huff Boxing Gym, international boxing coach Jill Perry, and moving on to our first presenter, who is Canadian Olympian Mandy Bujold, who I'm really excited to be able to, I guess, do a little bit of an interview with as well. So make sure you guys include your questions as we go ahead. So for those of you guys who don't know, Mandy is a 12-time Canadian champion. And yes, I do count the qualifiers last year as being the 12th time. She won gold medal at the Pan Am Games and a bronze at the Commonwealth Games. She participated in 3 continental championships. She represented Canada at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, and she's on her extended road to Tokyo, which is going to be scheduled for next year, which is a nice thing to look forward to. And these are just a few of Mandy's many accomplishments. So we're really excited to have her. I'm going to try to figure out how to feature her in a second. So Mandy, get ready as I try to find you. Sorry. And I've unmuted you, and I will spotlight you now.
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you. There you go. Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Jen. It's very different speaking to an audience that you can't really see. But I think it's great just to see that there's so much interest from Boxing Ontario membership all across the board. I'm going to try and kind of keep my tips kind of more specific, I think, to the athletes that are joining. I guess it'll be relevant a bit to everybody. We're all going through a situation that we've never dealt with, so I'm definitely not an expert. But these are just some of the things that I've been doing that I think might help you in some way, and hopefully it does. So I'm going to share my screen. So for those who do have video, you'll be able to see. For those who don't, I'll just make sure I'm reading what's on my screen. So can we see that? All right. So what I did is I thought, well, we are seeing this word COVID nonstop, and it's usually obviously in a negative light right now. So how do we kind of look at this word and think of some of the positive things or some of the things we can be doing, in our sport to keep developing and to keep moving forward whenever we see that word. So I made this acronym. So C is for conditioning. I'll go through them in more detail, but C is for conditioning. O is for opportunity, V is for visualize or video, I is for initiative, and D is for develop. So a couple of the things. So number one, for all the athletes, and I'm sure all the coaches will agree with me on this one, conditioning, I think, is number one right now. So although we don't have any idea when we're going to be competing again, it's great to keep up your conditioning. There's so much you can do that does not require equipment. So, going outside for a run, agility drills. I've been actually playing with chalk on my driveway, drawing different chalk things out and using that for agility. So there's so many ideas that you can do just to keep your conditioning up. But I think the main thing with that is that when we do get the green light, from Boxing Canada, Boxing Ontario, and AIBA to go back to boxing, that we do have that base conditioning to come back to, so that we can just kind of pick up where we left off when it comes to that. So that's our C. O for opportunity. So C is the opportunity to stay active and get your workouts done. So if you're not working right now, I know we're all in very different situations, different circumstances, but if you aren't working right now, this is maybe a really great opportunity for you to get those extra workouts in, to focus on your health, and even, some things that we kind of put off to the side, like doing some rehab for injuries and that type of thing. This is a great time to be able to kind of take a step back and make sure that when you do come back, you're fully healthy and prepared for the next step in your journey, wherever that is going to take you. And just remember, this is something that we are all in together. Visualize, so the V, visualize video. I put 2 things on there. So visualize is obviously, it's a skill that a lot of athletes use. I'm not sure how many people on here use it. I think it's a great tool. It's something that you can start off super simple with. I do have another little resource. I'm not sure if I'm even going to try and pull it up. Maybe I'll add it to the chat after so people can see. But there's so many resources online right now, and not that I want to age myself, but when I first started, YouTube wasn't a thing. Google, you can look up all this information. Now we just have all this information at our fingertips. So I think really being able to take this time too and use that, and just do some research on different things, like how do athletes use visualization? How do they bring that into their performance? I think is key, and is something that you can really use this time to help you with. And then using video, so watching videos of your favorite boxers, analyzing some of your old fights, maybe making notes on some of the things that you think you need to improve on, and then maybe focusing on some of your future opponents. I know that's something that Sid and I have been doing, thinking about the Pan Am's or the Continental qualifier that just got canceled, so that we know they're going to happen at some point. We basically know who's going to be there, so we're now analyzing, well, how do we prepare for those opponents so that when we do go up against them, we can basically just pull a sheet and say, hey, this is exactly what we need to do against that person. So this is really great opportunity to be able to work on some of those small things. Initiative is pretty straightforward, right? So, don't wait for someone to tell you what to do. If your coach or the gym, they're dealing with a lot right now, if they haven't reached out to you yet, don't be afraid to reach out to them, or, send them some ideas on, hey, this is what I'm working on. What do you think about that? I'm sure they're going to be more than happy to provide you with feedback and give you some ideas to be able to work on what you want to work on. I'm also a resource. Feel free to reach out to me. I've put my social media at the end of this. If you want to reach out to me, that's probably the easiest way. More than happy to share some ideas with you as well. But step 1 on taking initiative is really just making a plan, right? A plan for the day, a plan for the week, trying to have, the same way that you're going boxing every day at 10 o'clock, try to do the same thing in this situation, right? If your schedule still allows for that, just try to stick to a plan so that you can continue to move forward during this time. And then D is for develop. So really just try not to stay stagnant, really just using this time to develop your skills and your techniques. So like I said already, really great opportunity to slow things down, take time, make some corrections, go back to the basics, and perfect them. Like if you have a really good jab, like it can always get better, right? And that's what's really going to just make you a better athlete at the end of all of this. So really just use this time, work on some specific things, footwork, defense. There's so much you can do with zero equipment. So really just, taking that opportunity again to continue moving forward. And then I put this little quote at the end here because I think it's a good one, but it's super simple. You get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. Right? So you have an opportunity right now to focus on something. So what are you going to decide to focus on is the key. And this is my social media. It's just my name. So feel free to reach out. I do share some different training videos and stuff. I usually share a bit more on my story than I do on my actual page. But again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if there's anything that I can do to support you in this time. More than happy to. So.
Awesome, Mandy. Actually, so we're going to keep you with us for a second. I did have one question come through. Guys, if you have any questions for Mandy, one of the questions that came through was basically, how are you able to, how is this going to affect your change in your training regime, I guess, considering that it's been pushed, the Olympics has been pushed off until next year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's something that we still have to work through right now. We're still waiting to hear final dates on, when we're going to actually have our qualifier. So that's going to really dictate, how do we train? How do we plan for that? So right now, again, we're just trying to stay prepared, right? Like if they were to say, hey, we're going to make this qualifier in 2 or 3 months, we can basically just kind of pick up and be ready for it at any time. So it's really just about staying ready and staying active, keeping your mind active, keeping your body active, and just staying sharp for it.
Awesome. Very good. Is there anything that you hope to accomplish over this time this undefined time that that we have? We are looking at basically, do you have any goals for the next couple of weeks to couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff for me would be like the video analysis. Now having a young little girl running around, sometimes I just don't really have enough time for that when I'm training a few times a day. So, being able to take some time and, when I should be training, to do a bit of video instead, or even just spending that quality time with her, because sometimes my training does take me away from my family a little bit. So just trying to find a balance right now, and realizing what's important in this moment, focusing on today, tomorrow, what I can control. And then, we kind of make decisions as we have more information, because right now it just seems so unsure, are we going to be like this for another few weeks? Are we going to be like this for another few months? We really don't know. So we just have to kind of take it day by day and make sure that we're healthy and we're doing whatever we can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your videos with us. I'm enjoying seeing KO. By the way, Mandy's 16-month-old daughter is
Yeah.
she's 16, in all of your videos, and she's been worked into your routine. So that's pretty awesome. If anyone has any requests, by all means, throw them our way, and I'll keep Mandy busy with just putting together videos for you guys. Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, if anyone has any questions for Mandy, by all means, throw them in there and we can try to get back to her as we go through. Hey guys, I'm just going to do a quick introduction for those of you guys who don't know. This is Olga and Teresa Heron of the world-class Huff Boxing Gym. With over 25 years of experience, they offer beginner to pro level training. They're the home of champions Kane Heron. And am I pronouncing the last name correctly, Heron? I've known you guys for like my whole life and I still don't know if I'm saying it right. I might not have you guys unmuted here. Let me make sure you guys are unmuted. Sorry. Yeah, you're not unmuted. Hold on. Okay, I'm just gonna take a chance to unmute you guys. Hold on for 1 second. So you guys are unmuted now. Say a couple words for a second. So so home of Kane Heron, Canadian welterweight champion, and Faith Rigo, who is the Canadian Junior 57 national champ. And I didn't know this, but she's the IBF and WBC amateur champion, which is really cool. Yes. That just lists off a couple of things that you guys have accomplished, and they are benchmarks in our boxing community, not just locally, but I think that internationally everyone seems to know who you guys are, which is awesome. And I've grown up in the boxing industry just looking up to you guys. So welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We miss everybody this weekend. We should all be together, and we are still together, which is totally awesome. I'm going to go ahead and screen share with you all very shortly.
You guys can dance in the meantime.
I'll dance right now.
Didn't you have it on?
Trying to...
There you go.
Can you see that?
Did you press share screen?
Oh, you have to go on the other thing. Okay, so here, go share screen. And you have to have that screen open.
It is open.
For the love of God, we'll get through this.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
This is all new for all of us, so we're gonna get started. There we go, guys. You guys are live, and you're showing me your Zoom screen.
Do you have
it now?
We do.
Awesome.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we're going to be presenting today about just staying connected during the COVID, and we prepared this for all of you guys. And as you know, we're in the same position as you. We're going through this right now, so we're trying to work on things and figure out going back to foundations and basics of just connecting with people. And I think through the time we've gotten to a connection where we're just texting. So just going back to basics, go through your members list, just give people a call. Just genuinely, like, even athletes, like if you guys know each other, support each other, give yourself, like, call each other. It's a good way to just show genuine authenticity that we're here as a community and we care about each other. And right now we need to support each other through this because we're all going through this. So let's just pick up the phones and connect with people again. And you can do so for your members as well, because that's your tribe and that's your community that you're working with. And those are the people that you're serving. So if you're serving those people and they're paying you for a service, then, reach out to them. Ask how you could better serve them during this time. Work on their needs right now of what they need. let them know what you're offering and discuss ways to better serve them. There may be some things that work for some and some things might not work for others. So that's something you guys can work out together with your athletes or with your members. And you may even gain new clients through this time as well. So send out a personal email. We use a Twin Oaks software. At the end, I'll give you guys some resources for softwares that you can use to make things easier, because you can have some things automated and good emails going out and text services and stuff like that. So connecting through social media is always good. I think giving out content is really good, and showing our level of expertise in the boxing community and creating awareness for boxing is great. I think me personally, like my members pay us a fee. So there is certain things that I like to keep for just our members. So that's something that you guys may want to consider, is having different levels of what you're putting out there. And yeah, that's next slide, please.
Right on.
Thanks. Right now is a really good time as a business owner, as an athlete, as a person, to really audit. I say business because that's what we're mainly discussing, but audit your business, audit yourself, audit things that you need to change. Maybe this is what you needed to get to the next level. So look at it as a blessing in disguise, even though things look really, really hard right now, and a lot of people might be uncertain. You may be losing members, your cash flow may be going down. Just try to communicate with people, try to keep your cash flow as positive as possible. Work with the members and work with the landlords and whoever you can communicate with, if they can give you a break right now. If you want a sample letter, I'll be willing to share that with you guys if you need something for your landlord. Also take this time to go through things administratively in the business, operationally, if things are flowing well, what you need to change or not change. Do safety checks on the equipment. This might be a really good time for you to do an upgrade, because you have the time that you're closed down. So there's a lot of really positive things that can come out of this situation.
Yeah.
Next. And these are some resources for you guys. You guys know, like you guys can reach me on my cell or DM us, call us if you need help with anything. We're praying that everyone has a positive outcome, and I believe with our community, we're going to stand strong and we're going to fight the good fight, and we're going to get through this all together. So that's what I have to say right now.
I actually have a couple of questions that have come through for you guys.
Sure.
So we have a question from Sean Floyd. Is your club applying for any government assistance, or is Boxing Ontario for clubs? So I can answer on the Boxing Ontario side first. We're still waiting. So even on a club end, I'm still researching, because I also own a gym, trying to figure it out. But Boxing Ontario has been sitting in on, that's what I was doing today, multiple webinars and meetings and government. I know that we've got a pretty good line into the ministry, trying to find out and wait. There's just a lot of questions right now of how they are moving that forward. So I know that there's one thing that's going to be coming certain, and that's on April 6th, individuals will be able to apply for the $2,000 per month if they qualify. And again, we've sent out that information via email. I will let Olga and Teresa, if you guys have any answers on your club, how you guys are dealing with that.
There is a loan that I would like to apply for. It's like a $40,000 loan, and you only need to pay back 30,000 of it. But right now they don't have anything out that you can actually apply. So this is just something they're offering, but the application process is still not begun. And then, yes, we're going to speak with Boxing Ontario and find out what's best for us to do or what they recommend, and we can go from there.
Yeah,
we definitely like seek out all your resources.
Yeah.
Get online, look at what applications you can fill out, and go for 100-fold of the finances you can get back from this for sure. We're doing that. We're doing that with our accountant. Thankfully, we have a team behind us that can help us navigate through that. Boxing Ontario has been awesome in sending out layman terms how to help with that, because like I know myself, like that's beyond my pay grade. So the layman terms, you know, PDFs that are coming out with that are very helpful, and I definitely think every club should tap into that for sure.
Yeah, and the other thing about this, from the understanding that I read about the $40,000 grant, or it's not a grant, sorry, the $40,000 loan, you have to have $50,000 worth of payroll, from my understanding, from last year to be able to qualify to hold on to the $10,000. So I'm not sure if, for example, my gym would actually qualify for that.
Right. That's why okay, so that's what I was saying before, as in like there's going to be certain criterias to meet, right? Like we meet that criteria, so we can apply for that, but there's certain restrictions and criterias that there are, and they're not in the application process. It hasn't even begun yet. Like it doesn't, they don't
Right.
even have it, but they do already have some pre-qualifyings that you need to do.
Beautiful. So we're gonna keep you guys informed as we get the information, because we're desperately, I think all of us, considering most of us are either involved with the gym, we're coaches, or we own clubs ourselves. We are desperately looking for the answers on this. So as it comes in and as official applications come through, we'll make sure to get those out to the clubs. Thank you guys so much. If there's any questions again for these guys, please definitely bring them back our way. I'm gonna mute you guys for a second. I know Jill doesn't want her face to be quite so large on the screen, but I'll make it quick so you can start sharing your screen while I introduce you. So this is international boxing coach, Jill Perry. She was famous before I even knew her. I read about her when I was just getting into the sport. Jill is the head coach of Beaver Boxing. She sits on the Ringside for Youth Committee and is the chair of the High Performance Boxing Committee for Boxing Ontario. She holds her NCCP level 3 and is a 1-star IABA certified coach and has done quite a few different international tournaments, which is incredible. I've been lucky enough to see her at work from the other side. So that is other side being I'm usually being told I can't talk or wave at the coaches while I'm at international tournament, and I'm always trying to make eye contact just so I'm there. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Let me put up my slides. And here we go. Can you see them?
Not yet. You're gonna have to share your screen.
Hold on here, sorry. 1 second here.
No problem, guys. Thank you guys for all being so patient.
Start share. There we go. Okay, give me 1 second. Boom.
Perfect.
So good evening, everyone. It's lovely being with you, even though we're not together. And so tonight I want to talk about some of the things we can do as coaches during this time. I know we're not in our clubs, but there's still things we can be doing. And so the topic of my presentation is no more, no better. And it's really focusing on upgrading our skill set while we have this extra time. And so starting a little bit with coaching education. Why would you want to invest in your coaching education? And I think this is, for some people, they may have done a certain number of courses and feel that's enough for them. And I've heard coaches say, I don't need any more. But I think the way I look at it is you really need to do it for your athletes. If you looked at any one of your athletes right now in the gym and you locked in their skills as of today, you locked in their conditioning, their knowledge of the ring, their skill set, would they be able to win, say, a provincial title with that exact same skill set? Would they be able to win a national title? Would they be able to do international bouts in a competitive way? And I think most of us would probably say no, unless maybe you're Mandy's coach. And I say that so if we're expecting more from our athletes, and that's why we're getting them into the gym and we're training them and we're teaching them new drills and we're pushing them, we also have to apply that sort of thinking to ourselves and say, as a coach, I also need to be learning. I need to be upgrading my skills. There's new information coming out all the time. And if you want to be developing great boxers, then you need to be enhancing your knowledge base. So do it for your athletes. Another reason why you might want to update your coaching education is for your coaching status. And I'm not saying, oh, your status, but I'm saying your status is if you're a level 1, becoming a certified level 2 or a level 3. And I say this because Quest for Gold funding, which is due Monday at midnight for everyone on this call, if you are not a certified level 2 coach, your athletes can technically not get Quest for Gold funding. That is a ministry requirement. And I don't think we've ever really enforced it, but the ministry might say, no, that athlete doesn't qualify because their coach is not a level 2 certified coach. Wouldn't that be a terrible feeling to think that you're denying your athlete funding opportunities because you're not properly certified? So do it for that. And then also opportunities at the nationals. Right now, the rule is you have to have 1 level 3 in the corner. You know, at some point they might say all coaches in the corner need to be a level 3. And I know there's a whole thing with there's no level 3 course right now, so I'm not even going to go there. I don't know when it's coming out. But when it does come out, at some point they may put that in place. And wouldn't it be terrible to develop an athlete that gets to the nationals and then not get to be in their corner? So again, do it for your athletes, do it for yourself. And also, you know, it does have funding implications. So there's some reasons why you might want to invest in your coaching education. With the NCCP certification, there's something called professional development points. And as a coach, we all need these. Every 5 years, you need to accumulate 20 professional development points. It doesn't take a lot to get 20 points. Every year that you're an active coach, you earn 1 point just for coaching. So technically within 5 years, you only need 15 credits. And you can do these through the NCCP courses that are offered online. Whether you can do things that are like formal education with NCCP, but you can also do other things like Boxing Ontario has a Cutman course. That would actually qualify for an NCCP certification for a professional development point. If you attend a sport conference, if you go to the Coaching Association of Ontario, that conference will earn you 3 professional development points. So there's lots of way to earn these points, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about them in my next slide. But just know that if you log into your locker on the coach.ca website, you need to manually enter certain courses, but any of the NCCP courses will automatically get logged into your system. So what's in your locker? So these are just a couple of things that I've pulled up. There are tons of courses out there. Some of them are free, some of them are not, but they're all worth checking out, and pick the ones that interest you and get those professional development points. So here's one. I think this is a really interesting one for all of us. It's the NCCP Emergency Action Plan. So this is what you would do in a situation where you have an event and you get an injured athlete. And I think if we are running club shows, this is an excellent course to take. It helps for you to develop a plan. So say you're running a club show, athlete gets injured, that you've actually thought it through, that you have processes in place, that you're not just thinking on the fly and trying to get something done. And I think that's a really important course, and it's a free one. So I have links to all of these in my slides that I can make available afterwards, but that emergency action plan is a pretty valuable course. And again, it's a free one. Coaching athletes with a disability is another NCCP course. That one's, I think, $15. But more interesting, a little bit more specific for us is Boxing Without Barriers. This is one of our member clubs, and this particular coach has developed programming and there's curriculum for it for you, and it's developing coaching strategies for athletes with special needs. And you might think, well, I don't have any athletes with special needs in my club, but I'm guessing most of us do. And because special needs can be defined as someone with autism or ADHD. And sometimes you have kids in your club that they're just a little bit outside the lines. They're just a little bit harder to coach. And this Boxing Without Barriers program can help you to understand how they learn so that you can get the best out of them, and they can get the best out of you. Okay. Center for Disease Control has a great initiative on Heads Up. This is dealing with youth concussions. There's online training there. That one was free. Coaching Association of Canada has professional coaching webinars available. And these are taught by some of our leading sport experts, sports scientists on everything from nutrition, power generation, sports psychology. There's a wide variety of courses that are really interesting and can help you become a better coach.
Actually, I have a question there. Can you hear me, Jill?
I can, yes.
I have a bunch of questions coming in for you. I guess lots of coaches on the call. First one was actually, are these programs available to non-coaches? Or do you need to have, okay.
The NCCP stuff, you need to have an NCCP number, but all you have to do is register and you'll get an NCCP number.
Perfect. And I had another one just because I've got you kind of on that. Do you think that, and this is something we'll have to talk more about offline, but do you think that we can maybe offer these level 1 coaching courses and even the, I know that I probably could adapt a officials course to be a webinar just so we don't hold back our level 1s kind of from moving forward. So it might be something, I don't know if you've ever dealt with that before.
I have not, but I know that the NCCP portion of the different levels all have an online component. So you can do them in person or you can do them online. So it's conceivable that we could adapt a coaching course to be online, because this like right now is like a unique opportunity for us.
Perfect. Yeah, that's actually something that what Mike Williamson just sent me a private message saying that we're in talks to get these to be webinars. I think that that's something we should definitely move forward on, especially considering the situation we're in right now. Mike was just saying that they're considering making a sport specific online. I guess you guys have been talking about it possibly.
I haven't, but it would be great because we need to, it's like I say, it's a great opportunity. If I'm to steal from Mandy's COVID acronym, opportunity, there we go, coaches. And this one, the CAC, the Coaching Association of Canada, I found these, and these are just little short videos, and this wouldn't count for professional development, but I thought they were really funny and informative, and it's really seasoned, experienced coaches talking. If they were going to talk to themselves 30 years ago or 20 years ago, what would they do differently? And so that's just some lessons learned, and I thought it was really interesting to hear what some of these really high-level coaches have to say about what they would do differently.
So actually, the question that came through about the courses, is there's no scheduled NCCP level 1 at this moment, is there?
I think all of the Boxing Ontario courses were canceled.
Okay. So the NCCP level, I think it was canceled, but we're going to look. So I've got a lot of people asking about this because it looks like a lot of people were enrolled for the next upcoming ones. I know that Mike was scheduled to teach one. I was scheduled to do one for level 1 officials as well. I think that we are going to work to do a webinar style one. Honestly, I'm very impressed with the capabilities of this Zoom. And I think that it's something that we can definitely work with. I know on the official side of things, because I know we have a lot of officials or people who want to become officials. The idea of being able to show videos through here is going to be something that will be very educational. There is so yeah, sorry, if you want to continue with your presentation there.
And the last thing I'm going to talk about is video analysis. And again, the aligns with Mandy's, the V and COVID, is we're not working the corner these days, but we still need to keep our critical assessment skills sharp. So it's really important to still watch, find some really good, not pro fights, because it's not the same. Find some really good amateur bouts, just watch them and score them or think, what would I tell this boxer? Like, I think it's really important that we keep our skills sharp, because if we're not back in the ring for a few months, and then that first day you go back into the corner, you don't want to be like, ooh, it's been a long time, right? So it's just something that we can still do to keep ourselves in the game.
On that, sorry, I had another question about where to find the courses. We, through Boxing Ontario, are going to have to make that a little bit easier to find. Any course through Boxing Ontario will be available under events on boxingontario.com. However, some of the courses you're talking about, Jill, you're going to send this deck out to the people who are on this call and to the members. So
Yeah,
they'll be able to,
I've put links in for everything. So all of these have hyperlinks to the resource.
perfect. Sorry to cut in again. I have a question from Gabby's mom. That's our 13-year-old viewer here. She says, I have a suggestion from the perspective of a young athlete's parent. If there could be some kind of intro to the sport or training for parents on how to support our child in the sport, that would be great. Or is there already something? I do believe there is something through NCCP. Am I correct on that one?
That one I'm not familiar with, but I wouldn't be surprised. There probably is, and there's probably is definitely something for some sports like soccer and stuff. I wouldn't doubt that exists. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything boxing specific that I've come across, but it's certainly not a bad idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I know through Coaching Ontario, and again, everything Coaches Ontario, I believe it is. You can just kind of do a quick Google search, and I've seen these courses, and they're usually free courses. People really need to educate. Like the athletes are educated, the coaches need to be educated, just like what Jill was saying, learning and getting a little bit more, taking this time to watch some of the videos of boxing. Now that I see how easy these webinars are, I think I might hold a coach's seminar on watching some bouts and being able to help score and talk through the scoring. I think that would be really helpful. And then also for the parents, educating yourselves on what is going to support your kids. We'll look at something, putting together some information so that the parents have that. And Jill, if you ever see anything, or Mandy, now that you're a mom, if you see anything about educating the parents on, I guess, supporting their athletes, I think that would be awesome. I think I see Teresa and Olga putting their hands up. I'm just gonna spotlight them for a second. Jill, I'll bring it back over to you.
Okay.
So, 9.
There we go. Hey.
We got 9 children, so you guys got any questions? We can answer some questions. Ages ranging, what's the youngest? 5, all the way to 29. So give us a call.
Very good. Yeah, they're great resources. I see their kids running around everywhere all the time. So awesome, guys. I saw your hands waving there. Awesome. So Jill, I will bring it back over to you so you can close things up there.
Okay. So I know there's some athletes on the call as well. So I dug up some athlete resources. One of them, and this one is an IOC initiative. It's called Athlete 365. And there are actually courses that coaches could take as well as athletes. This is a great resource. And it's really, the courses are actually offered in multiple languages, some of them, and they're taught by academics from all over the world. And they range from like sports science topics, business of sport, which you might think, oh, why as an athlete I want to know about business and sport? But I'm sure as an athlete, you'd love to get a sponsorship with some, and so learning how to brand yourself, learning how to market yourself, business of sport, that's what it's all about. Health and safety, recovery, nutrition. There's a lot of sport specific stuff too. Anyways, there's tons of courses. You need to register on this site, and it's free to register, and these courses are as free as well. So it's really interesting site. I really like that one. Boxing Canada has some great resources as well. One of them, Making Weight. I know during this special time, some of us are eating a little bit more than we want to be, and maybe not getting as much fitness in as we want to be. So when it comes time to get back in the ring, I mean, it's one thing to be a fat coach, but you don't want to be the fat athlete. So Making Weight, and I talk about this really important because, I hear about people doing crazy weight cuts, and honestly, I cannot, I really disagree with it, because even a 1% weight cut impacts performance. So you really have to be careful. We are not like professional boxing. We do our morning weigh-ins, and if you have an afternoon fight and you're really working hard to make weight, you are actually giving a competitive advantage to your opponent. And if I asked a boxer, hey, would you just like to give a round to your opponent? I'm sure they would all say, no way. But when you go and you cut too much weight, you might as well be doing that, because you are impacting performance. And if you don't believe me, just don't water a plant and take a look at it after a while and see how it looks. And that's the effects of dehydration. Okay, so making weight is a good one. WADA, the banned substance list, this is important for all athletes, even if you aren't an Olympian. These are important things to know, because if you go to a nationals and you happen to get tested and you have a banned substance in you, that's 100% on you. So you need to know, because these banned substances show up in all kinds of things, over-the-counter drugs, they show up in some of the sport energy drinks. You really have to be careful. Nutrition supplements are not a regulated industry. You need to be really careful about what you're putting in your body. So the banned substances list is there for you. And again, a video analysis. Increase your boxing IQ. Analyze some of your own fights. Analyze ones of people that you want to fight. Analyze fights of boxers that you'd like to box like. But it's also, I have actually a form that I can share with you on how you can sort of categorize your analysis, so you can put some structure to it if anyone wants. I can share that. But these are all things that you guys can be tapping into to help make you a better boxer. And then lastly, I want to talk about, this comes from Boxing Canada. This is the gold medal profile, or the winning style of play. This is a document that was put together by Boxing Canada, the Canadian Olympic Committee, and Own the Podium. And it's a highly sourced document, like 21 different researchers contributed to this. They used technical experts as well as sports scientists, and they looked at winning boxers and what are their qualities. And here I've shown you two sample analysis. These are Clarissa Shields fights, and they're looking at, and these are actually quite longer. I just put a subset of them in, but very interesting to compare. So you can see just by her punch count, she's a very busy boxer. She's throwing a lot of punches, and clearly when she fought Ariane Fortin, the one on the right, that must have been an amazing fight. Tons of punches being thrown, very few missed punches. So anyways, this is some of the analysis that they used to create this. This document is Canada's standard for an international level boxer. This is what, if you want to be an international level boxer, these are the kinds of things they'll be looking for you. They're looking for you to have a certain number of fights. They're looking for you to have of those fights, they're wanting them to be a certain number of international level fights. They're looking for you to have a certain level of fitness, of strength. When you fight, that you have a certain output. These are all the things that they've assessed. It's a really, really interesting, it's a flash presentation. Highly recommend you check it out. So, and on that note, I'm gonna pass things back to Jen.
Very good. And again, if anyone has any other questions, or I guess I'll be on the screen for a second. We're going to have to unshare your screen. So if anyone has any other questions or anything for myself, Jill, any of the speakers, Mandy, I've been seeing some questions come through. We can even send these directly to them after. So don't worry, we'll get to you guys. I'm really, really excited about the next person we have coming up. He's an icon. I'm going to put our icon up on screen. I'm going to unmute Sid while I give a quick introduction to Sid. Can we hear you there as well?
Hope so.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so so Sid is going to be hosting the interview with Russ, and I'll try to watch for any questions. So make sure you guys start getting your questions ready. Sid also accompanies me as a Boxing Ontario director. He's the owner of Boxing by Sid, as his shirt says. I don't know, we can't quite see the shirt there. There we go. He's Team Destiny's head coach and Mandy Bujo's boxing coach. Sid is a #1 ranked super middleweight boxing champion who has fought world champions Bernard Hopkins and Jeff Lacey and had a victory over Glenn Johnson. Now, there is a list. You guys should Google this guy. I had to look you up there, Sid, just to get you a couple of the names. And I remember when someone told me the first time that you had fought Bernard Hopkins, I was like, no. And that's when I Googled you for the first time. I was like, oh, and then I watched your fight. You're awesome. Yeah. So I guess I should also introduce who we're going to have joining you. I haven't figured out how to split screen this, so I'm gonna have to bring it over to Russ in a second when I find him, because he joined us a little bit late. So right now we'll just look at Sid. But we have joining with us today Russ Anber, and we're going to finish off with a fun interactive interview with Canada's own Russ Anber, TV personality and founder of Rival Boxing Gear. He's worked with some of the top fighters, including Deontay Wilder, David Lemieux, and Vasily Lomachenko, and many more, actually. When I started looking a little bit more into who he's been working with, he's been really busy. He's a trainer, cutman, and I remember for the first time watching him on TV back when I was just starting my gym 15 years ago. And he's commentated, I just learned this, he's commentated 6 Olympic championships. I'm not sure, I'm still looking for you there, Russ. So I'm not sure if I've missed anything. Sid, while I look for Russ, let me know if I've missed anything and fill us in on a few other things he's done.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just a few months ago, Russ was working with 4 of the boxers that were in the top 10 pound for pound fighters in the world. So, I mean, he's got a wealth of experience. There he is right there. Wealth of experience. And I just want to say, like, thank you to Jen just for putting this together. One of the things that Jen is very adamant about and is communication. And one of the things that in the past, I heard from some of the members was the communication, there wasn't quite enough of it. And that's one of the things that Jen, our president, is really trying to do, is open up the lines of communication and be transparent. And, just so thank you, Jen, for putting this together for us tonight.
No problem. This has actually been one of the coolest experience. I didn't realize that this was so possible. So now that we know this is, by the way, to the coaches on this call, we are going to be doing our draws from now on like this. There's no reason to do telephone draws anymore when we have this access. And you're using my account right now, but I'm pretty sure we can open it up to have 1,000 people on it. So if you guys get used to this, please start, because the next time we have a tournament, this is how we're going to be doing it. So thank you so much for that shout out there.
Yeah. Another crazy thing is when I was, Jen was like, can you please introduce Russ? And I was like, sure. And I thought about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's from Quebec. He's not even from Ontario. And when I said to you, hey, let's have Russ, you didn't even you just right away. And I think that speaks to what I love about Russ is a boxing guy. He's a Canadian boxing guy. He lives in Montreal and he's from Quebec, but he's about supporting boxing in Canada. And I learned this very early on in my career. As an amateur, I visited his gym at the Ring 83, I think it was at that time. He was very helpful and gracious and welcomed me there. And then as a pro, I was on his show, his television show, In This Corner. And then as a coach, just whenever I had a fighter and I needed a place to go, if I was in Montreal area, I'd give him a shout and he'd say, hey, Sid, come on by, make his gym available to me. Even not so, like just a few years ago, Mandy was looking for sparring. So I called him up and, Russ, Mandy needs some high level sparring. Do you have anything? And I think he was in camp with Deontay Wilder at the time. He's like, well, Sid, if you want to come this way, I might be able to get her some work with this Katie Taylor. And I was not the biggest women's boxing fan. I wasn't very knowledgeable. And so I called Mandy. I'm like, well, he says this Katie Taylor girl might be able to get some work. She's like, Sid, Katie Taylor. I'm like, really? Really? I'm like, yeah, what? Katie Taylor. And she explained who Katie Taylor was. And I looked at her videos. I was like, oh, okay. She's a little bit big. That's all she's got on you. But that's Russ. Russ is like, he's such a resource. And I thank him for taking his time to be on this call. And we're just going to talk a little bit about training camps and just what makes an effective training camp. And Russ, how you doing?
I'm good, and thank you for having me. And I really enjoyed listening to everybody. Jill's presentation really hit home because from the education aspect of what she spoke about, and by accident, Jen plays into this and says, I didn't know that Sid fought Bernard Hopkins. And you guys have a plethora of information available to you in Ontario, and athletes and coaches that have performed at all levels. And I think one of the weakest fragments of our sport, for whatever reason, and this is almost geographically, it's not even just, it's not in just one place, it's everywhere. We forget to learn from our history. We forget to learn from those who came before us. We forget to learn what happened in boxing and how is the sport that we are in today, where did it come from? And we get so wrapped up in our own thing of what we're doing and that the only thing that matters is the present, that we forget that Canada has a rich history in boxing, and whatever we have now is as a result of that history. Whatever passion you guys are sharing now, whatever success you're having now is as a result of the history and those who paved the way for you guys to all be here at this time. And don't pass that up. It's not going to be around forever. You know, sadly, you know, Adrian Teodorescu is not here anymore to tell you about his experiences in boxing and how we could avoid repeating the same mistakes. Joe Sandulo, who was, you know, such a dear friend of mine and one of the few guys that I never had a conflict with in my 40 years in the game, which is not a lot, can make that list. And, you know, having him gone and not being able to tell the story and share the stories. You know, some of you might have known Joe when he was at a more advanced age, but when he was young, I mean, this guy knew everything there was to know about boxing, and he had at a time from Ottawa, mind you. Now, we're not talking about a big metropolis. From Ottawa, one of the strongest clubs in the country. I mean, if you drew Beaver at a tournament, okay, you're in a fight now. This is it. You know, you at first round of the tournament, this was your gold medal final if you had to fight Beaver. Same thing with Cabbagetown back in the day. You guys have history. And the biggest mistake you can all make is to be wrapped up in what you're doing now and not look at how you got there and availing yourself of the knowledge of Sid, Dwight, who's been to 3 Olympic Games. You have, as an athlete and as a coach, you know, you have great knowledge there. And sometimes I feel, not just you, but in boxing in general, even the pros, even athletic commissions don't avail themselves of the knowledge that came before them. And like the saying goes, those who don't study history and its mistakes are condemned to repeat it. So that's my intro.
You know what, Russ? And that's why we have you here.
Because I'm old.
We want to tap into some of that knowledge, some of that history. We want to get some nuggets.
He just called me old. I'm sure that's what he just said. That's what he just said. You all heard that.
Oh my gosh.
You heard that.
I wanted to talk to you about training camps, just because you've been a part of so many great fighters' training camps. In your opinion, what has been the best training camp that you've ever been a part of?
Are you talking amateur or pro?
Interesting. Give me amateur first.
I think my 2 favorite camps in amateur had to be the 85 camp before we went to the North American Championships with Lennox and company. You know, that was a great one, but it's going to be hard to top the 88 Olympic camp in especially the final one in Vancouver, even though we got the sad news that Victor Salvatore and Corey Burton were being cut from the team. This was now coming to fruition that we were going to the Olympic Games, and we were going in, believe it or not, you know, as a country favored to get medals, and we were going there as a world power. We were in the top 10. I know that to you people, that's like the Maple Leafs winning the cup or the Canadians winning the cup. Okay, I mean, that's how far fetched that might be. But back in those days, you know, our team was something, and I think being a part of that and the camaraderie that we had there, and you kind of got the feeling that everyone there walked with that certain cockiness, walked with that assuredness that we were badasses. I mean, you know, you just have to think of the 86 Commonwealth team that captured 6 gold medals and I think put 9 in the final or some ridiculous amount like that. I mean, we were the Cuba of the Commonwealth. And I'm saying that because I know just how good Canadian boxing was. And I think the 88 team, really the talent we had, in my opinion, the 88 team was the equivalent of the USA's 76 team. So for me, that team was great. And there was a lot of talent. There was a lot of boxing knowledge. There was confidence. There was assuredness. There was a skill set of great fighters who emerged out of that. And even the alternates out of that team went on to great success, you know, in the pro ranks. And I don't think we can doubt of, you know, Lennox goes down as one of the greatest of all time. So that's my long-winded answer on your short question. That you know, 88 was a good one, no doubt about that.
Let's go to pro. Best pro training camp you've ever been a part of?
Well, I think whenever I speak about my pro career, and I'm proud that, you know, I've done it at so many different levels, and at you know, as a corner man, starting out as a corner man for opponents who were brought in as the B side, you know, back in the day, and I pray that they come back at the end of the first round, and I'm hoping they get cut so I could get to fix the cut as well. You know, like I'm wishing all this disaster upon all of them so that I can work, right? I want to make a name for myself. And I'm figuring these guys are supposed to get knocked out in one round. If I get them through 4 rounds, what an achievement. But anytime I speak of my career, it's very difficult to stray from the greatest moment of my life. And despite, you know, being with Usyk, being with Lomachenko, I mean, I've been to the pinnacle. I don't think anything will ever replace the training camp in England that we did for 7 weeks prior to Otis Grant fighting Ryan Rhodes for the middleweight championship of the world. I think that was, and the way we put that together on a shoestring budget, and said we were going to go there and do the training camp there because we weren't going to deal with any jet lag or any issues. We were going to go and make ourselves part of the community and be there. And we did that. And then to win the title on the road in Sheffield, in Ryan Rhodes' hometown, where if you watch the film of that fight, when they introduce Otis, the camera goes into the audience and 7 people stand up and applaud. They were all our friends, you know, like who would come over. And you win that, you know, winning is always great. And Sid will tell you, winning is always great. But winning on the road is a special feeling. And, you know, nothing will take away that win back in '97 when Otis captured the title just before Christmas, and the training camp that we did there. And there's a few stories behind that. One of them is we had a friend of ours who we had met when we were in New Jersey. And again, here's a little part of history for you guys as well. Sid, who fought, like you said, Bernard Hopkins for the world title during his pro career, was trained by a friend of mine who I introduced to Canadian boxing. And as a result of he was a mentor for me. And I dearly miss him. He was a true boxing guy. You know, he was half a nutcase, but he was a great, great man, a great boxing guy, a disciplinarian, very strict guy whose gym rivaled the Kronk gym when Kronk was at his best. And his name was John Davenport. And John Davenport became Sid's trainer, became Lennox Lewis's trainer right up until Lennox was about to fight for the heavyweight title. A great boxing guy, a great trainer. And he's somebody that I got to work with, you know, in the amateur ranks and through the pro ranks. So I think all this to say that those training camps with those guys and those wins, you know, those were truly great moments for me. And it's going to be hard to replace that. But Sid could tell you about John Davenport, you know, of how great of a trainer he was and what we were all able to learn from him and what he brought to the game as well, and passed on to Sid and to Lennox.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Jen, I know we're close to the end there. I wanted to see do you have any questions coming through there, or?
Yeah, pound for pound best. So I'm sorry, just looking here. Pound for pound best boxer, Russ. Who do you think that is right now?
Right now?
right now.
Right now. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make a case against Vasily Lomachenko. You know, I actually, like, a lot of people will mention Canelo or maybe Terence Crawford. I'm even, you know, subject to say that based on his size and the fact that he can do what Lomachenko does, you know, I kind of sometimes lean a little towards Usyk, you know, and what he's done in the game. But I think for me, if you really understand what pound for pound means, and I feel that today people throw out that name pound for pound without a real knowledge of what it stands for. If I may, I'll define that and tell you a little bit about the history of pound for pound. Came up, as you all know, for Sugar Ray Robinson. There was never a top 10 pound for pound list. Like, that in and of itself doesn't even make sense, because pound for pound means the best in the game. And what it means is your overall skill in everything you can do. How is your jab, your right hand, your left hook, your uppercuts, your footwork, your defense, your power, all that combined in making the perfect fighter. It's not only about your results. It's not only about how many knockouts you have. It's about being the perfect fighting machine. And as coaches, I think you can all understand that it's about making that perfect fighting machine. And Ray Robinson was the perfect fighting machine. And so if we bring it to our time, I think if you look at these fighters and you look at a Lomachenko, as naturally gifted as he is, if you freeze frame him, if you take still shots of him sparring or fighting, he is technically almost textbook perfect. He has his hands up, his feet are in good position, he always is in the right. He always throws his punches with technical perfection. There's a lot of perfect stuff about this guy. It's not just about his natural ability. He is textbook perfect. So for me, and having been in his camp and seeing that and having a close-up view of that, it's hard to argue with it. And I think if you look at the history of fighters that you think of who were pound for pound, I think that's synonymous in that there was perfection in what they did in every aspect of the game. So my vote is Vasily Lomachenko.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it doesn't hurt that he's your boxer right now too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd like to think that I'm able to be fair and objective in answering that, and of course, but I would defy somebody to be able to argue that based on what I just said and what the definition of pound for pound means.
Awesome. Very good. Sid, I'll throw it back to you. I think if anyone has any questions, I'm not sure if you guys have found the chat. Russ has got some amazing knowledge, and he's really entertaining to watch talk about stuff. So maybe throw some questions in there that you might find maybe that might stir the pot a little bit. If you guys have any boxing questions, maybe you disagree with what Russ just said.
Which is not difficult to do, right? Like, a lot of people could disagree with it, but I'll give you a little history if we're talking about learning about history and something that Jill presented earlier about the NCCP program. Well, I was in my, maybe year 6, 7, 8 of my coaching career when the NCCP program came into place. And I was working at a boxing gym, which was run by the city. It was a city-funded gym. And the director of the sports and recreation department suggested that I go take this level 1 coaching certification program. So I said, okay, I did. And you do your things. At that time, there were 3 levels. There was the technical, practical, and theory. And so I got my level 1. And it was interesting, and you learned stuff. And it was something that what I enjoyed about it was about the philosophies of coaching. It wasn't just boxing. So I enjoyed listening to the way other athletes are handled and coaching in general and philosophies that existed. Liked it so much, I went and took my level 2. Enjoyed that. And of course, after that, I followed up and I had my level 3 technical, and level 3 practical. So now, this is about I'm going to say 1985. Up until that time, personal coaches were allowed to travel with national team members. And if you're on the national team, even if you weren't selected, if you went to the event, you could work your fighter's corner. And, it was a nice family harmony. Well, in 84, that kind of erupted when there was the controversy with Willie DeWitt's trainer, which is Harry Snaddock, and Peter Wiley, who had been Sean O'Sullivan's trainer. They were left off the Olympic team after having been with the Canadian team throughout. They were left off and then weren't allowed to work the corner. And then there was dissension in the team. Those two fighters, along with Billy Dunlop and somebody else. Billy Dunlop was with Willie DeWitt, and Sean, who was the other kids on the, was it Calvin? Was Calvin on the 84 team?
Johnny Calvin?
Was he on the 84 team?
Could have been Johnny Calvin.
Anyways, there were 4 guys who didn't end up training with the team. It was in LA. They rented their own hotel. They trained by themselves. So this all, started this problem of having personal coaches on the team. Canadian Amateur Boxing Association says, okay, that's it. No more personal coaches. And if you want to be a coach and if you want to work the corner, you have to have a level 2. So everybody passes the motion. Yeah, good idea. That's right. Only level 2 coaches should be there. And then they went and checked and found out that I had level 2. So they redid the motion and made it that you have to have level 3 because I didn't have level 3. So that's a little bit of the history.
You're the guy.
I'm the guy. I'm the guy. That is the Russ Anber rule of putting the level 3 certificate, which at the time when they did it, and of course, we can't be blind to the fact that, amateur sport, whether it be boxing or anything else, is so politicized that it's ridiculous. Whatever success Canada has had in any sport, guaranteed would be increased by 20% if politics weren't involved. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna cut in now because we've got a couple other questions.
I gotta finish this thought here, Jen. I gotta finish this thought here. And okay. because of the politics, in the sport, the NCCP program was not put into place for the proper reasons. Instead of being put in place to educate coaches and to make it better, it was put in as a barricade. It was said, okay, we're going to use this to shrink the list of eligible people who can go on these trips and who could be part of the team. And that's who we're going to favor. So the list got shrunk of who would be eligible. And we really did nothing to foster the coaching and education program that Jill spoke of earlier. And as a result of these mistakes that were made, these little cancers that were put in, this is what we end up being left with. And we're having someone like Jill is now having to start from zero again, trying to enforce, to coaches the importance of education, because it wasn't used properly back in the day. It was used as a weapon and not as a vehicle for success.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you coach courses? I remember that because you used to be involved very heavily with the amateur side of things.
Of course, I'm a course conductor. I mean, it's been a while since I've given one, but I took the course conductor course. I did give some. Matt Mazurski was one of the people, God rest his soul, another one who we've lost that history. We've lost that experience to not repeat mistakes that we could still be making now. He was one of the guys who asked me to become a course conductor. And this was a time of great unity in the sport where we really wanted to build. And for a while, it was working because during that era, Canada was in the top 10 in the world. And for a small country like ours, when you consider the powerhouses that existed, it was a great achievement for us all. And it all made us proud. And it made boxing, as a result, it made boxing part of the Olympic broadcast. CBC invested money in bringing me over to all the Olympic events to do color commentary, because boxing was one of their focal sports, because Canada had results at it. And little by little, it went down, and we never, we kept putting Band-Aids or sticking our finger in a hole in the dike and never really fixing the problem.
So that's really a lot of loaded stuff there. That's awesome. I'm going to get on to, I don't know, Sid, if you're seeing the questions come through on your chat there, but I'll start you off here with actually one of our viewers asked if you think the current situation, how do you think it's going to be affecting the business of boxing, just as an overall kind of, I guess, situation, not just boxing clubs, but kind of the world of boxing?
Look, I think the problem that's going on in the world today is far bigger than just boxing. I think, without sounding pessimist, I think the world as we knew it is over, and I don't think we know what the future holds. I don't know what's coming out in the new world once we come out of this blackout, once we come out of this lockdown, once this is curbed. Will it come back again? Will there be other things like this that happen again? The effect on the economy worldwide, this is going to be, I think, catastrophic. The only upside to this is that at least everybody is on the same playing field. Like whether you're a business, whether you're a gym, whether you're a sport, a country, it doesn't matter where, you're all shut down. So we're all basically at the same point. It's not like there's half the world out there is doing their thing and we're not, and we're lagging behind. Everybody's in the same problem. That's the only upside, but I don't know what the new world holds. And I think it's far greater, and our concerns are going to be far greater than just what boxing is. I know we all love it and we're passionate about it, but there is big problems that are happening and that are going to decimate people right now. The economy is hurting. I mean, if you could just imagine, whether it be in sports, NBA shut down, NHL shut down, everything shut down. Las Vegas is shut down. So imagine now the casinos that used to fork over big checks to bring fights to their venue are going to want those fights back. They're going to want those, but they're not going to have the means to pay for that and bring those people back. So prices are going to go down, purses are going to go down. There's going to be an economic setback that could last us, and I'm no economist, but this could be for 5 years to come now, and we'll be lucky if it's only a recession. I mean, we'll be lucky if it's only that.
Well, I guess it's lucky that boxing doesn't need too much in the way of tools. We need our gloves and you need a ring, and you need a judge too, or a couple of judges and a referee. So it's I think for pro boxing, I think it's going to be quite exactly what you're saying. The purses are going to go down. But I know on the amateur end, we find a way. We find a way of just making it go. We have no money in it anyway. So.
Yeah, well, when you say there's no money in it, I think you'll get all the clubs, including yourself, Jen, that to disagree with that. Everybody has a financial interest in that. And you have your competitions. Yeah, okay. Doesn't take much, takes that. But before you get to those competitions, there's a place you have to prepare. And you need a coach who's able to go to his gym and he's creating an income perhaps elsewhere with another job, or maybe not. Maybe that is his job. Well, that income has to be created because he needs to feed his family, and he or she needs to keep staying alive while he or she can pursue their passion of coaching before you get to that competition site, before you get to the provincials or the nationals, So it's not only the pros that are going to suffer, it's all relative. The pros might need this much money and the amateurs only need this much, but they're still going to need it. And there's still a budget, and plane tickets have to be paid for to go to different places, or gas has to be put into cars and hotels. Back in our day, we didn't actually, if this would have happened back in our day, we wouldn't have even worried about that because this was all paid for you. Ontario paid for all and Sid will tell you this, Ontario paid for everything. You were sending a team to fight for you. You didn't pay to go fight. They paid you to go fight. They believed in you and paid you to go fight. You guys don't know that now, but that's the way it used to be. So people didn't pay to go to the nationals. Your province supported you and paid you to go. So there is going to be money that's going to be needed at all levels, I believe.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, well, we've got a couple of questions that are a little bit off topic here. We've heard that Russ does amazing hand wrapping. It's actually been referred to as a work of art. Do you teach people how to do this?
I have shown some people how to do it. It's not something that I do right now. I've been asked to do different seminars. As a matter of fact, Sid and I had spoken about this, if I'm not mistaken, and Ryan Grant wanted me to come do a seminar for him, and I told him that I couldn't, because I didn't do it for Sid, and I couldn't do it, and so he got Stitch Durant to come in his place, and he told me what the numbers were, and I said, maybe they're onto something there. Maybe I should be doing something like this. I know other friends of mine who do this kind of stuff. It's something I would do. The reality is, up until this happened, I haven't had time to really structure it, because if I'm going to do it, I want it to be done properly, and I want it to be really professionally done, and I want to do it with people have fun, they enjoy it, they leave there feeling that they got their money's worth, and it has to be good. So because I've traveled so much and have been with fighters, I mean, in the last 5 years, thank God I've been lucky that I've flown over 500,000 miles in the last 5 years. And I've been to countries all over the world in every time zone. So I really haven't had time to do it. But yes, it is something that I plan on doing, and something that I will be doing in the future, especially as I kind of, get out of this and call it a day in boxing for myself, at least actively, like I'm doing right now, and maybe look to do other challenges in the sport.
Good stuff. Well, maybe if we're here long enough, you might want to do a Zoom lesson for all of us.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that could work. It'll probably be better if it was live and on location, and we did it somewhere where people are there and you can touch and feel. And this is going to require. I mean, we could, but like I said, I would want it to be done. You had to be there. You had to be there.
There's a question actually, and I've always wondered what your feeling are as well, from Stephanie asking. Do you prefer hand wraps versus gauze, and why?
Do I prefer hand wraps versus gauze?
So I guess this is more of an amateur question. We've just, it keeps on going back and forth. I know that in IABA rules, it went from you used to be allowed to use gauze to wrap hands, and then they switched it over. You're only allowed to use Velcro wraps. And then now they've gone back to, I know Boxing Canada still doesn't allow it, but they've gone back to allowing gauze at the international level. So I guess the question is, what is your preference, and why would your preference be hand wraps versus gauze, or gauze versus hand wraps?
You guys are going to think I'm lying when I tell you this, but this is another Russ Anber rule that happened here, okay? Back in the day, and Sid will tell you, or if we have anybody who's listening who remembers, you were allowed to wrap hands with gauze. And in amateur boxing, when you went to an Olympic Games or whatever, you could wrap hands in gauze. No problem, no question. No tape. You weren't allowed to use tape. Tape was only for the wrist, but you could do it. So in 1987, we went to Bulgaria with what was the core of the Canadian Olympic team that would make the 88 team. And one of those guys on the team was Manny Sobral from Vancouver, who's still actively coaching now. And I was a coach on the team, and I was wrapping my guys in gauze. But even back then, I could wrap a hand. And I was wrapping a hand which looked like a pro wrap, back in those days. And the Bulgarians went nuts. Now, back in the day, Detchev, and I forget his first name, but I remember Detchev was the chief official for AIBA, and he was Bulgarian. And when he saw us wrap the hands the way we did it, the rules changed after that trip to Bulgaria. And then they said, oh no, you can only use this much. And they started imposing the restrictions, and then said, oh, here, we're going to give you what you need. So because they were unable to do that, amateur boxing at the AIBA level has done some, insane things. And it's amazing that we have survived as a result of that. And there have been countries that have worked so hard to try to be on the straight and narrow and do things right. And you're constantly, again, dealing with the politics of all this. And, when you think, if any of you ever have a chance to read Andrew Jennings' book, it's called The Lord of the Rings, it'll explain to you all the corruption that went on leading up to the 88 Olympics, in which Roy Jones was robbed of the Olympic gold medal what happened, who got paid off, everything. And as a result of that, it changed boxing for the next 25 years, where we eliminated judges. We said we're going to go to a computer scoring system. Everything was changed. And then, you know, that evolved. And then we said, okay, and bearing in mind that it was just prior to that, 84 was the first year that headgears became mandatory, which was a great introduction to the world of boxing, to amateur boxing. And I think, you know, anybody who thinks that removing it was beneficial doesn't understand boxing, or doesn't understand why a headgear is there in the first place. And amateur fighters, especially not getting paid, should not be subject to cuts, you know, and that's absolutely insane that they removed it. And believe me, and Sid could tell you as well, you know, guys scored crushing knockouts even with the headgear. When you knocked someone out, you knocked them out, and it wasn't because you had a headgear on, but the number of cauliflower ears and cuts that were reduced went almost to non-existent. I mean, we didn't even take cut stuff into the corner with us. Like it was, nobody ever got cut. You got a nosebleed. I mean, a cut was such a rare occurrence. And when I say rare, 1 in 5,000, you know, that someone would get cut in a fight. In all my years, I went once with a fighter to hospital. It was Manny Sobral, got cut under the eye in Copenhagen Box Cup in '87. That's the only time I ever been with an amateur fighter who needed stitches in a fight while wearing a headgear. So there's so many things that change. And then you get to 2016, and Michael Conlon does this after a fight, and that changed boxing again forever. You know, now he completely upset the entire system of AIBA, that they've been removed. So, you know, boxing in and of itself has been its own worst enemy. And this is why I implore you how important it is to learn from that, to know why we are where we are today. And not doing that, you're not doing yourself justice as an association, as a country moving forward, as a country wanting to succeed and improve the status that we have now, if you don't learn what was done and how and I'm telling you, you will read this, you'll look at this stuff, and you'll say, how the hell are we still here in boxing when all this disaster happened, you know? And it's crazy. It's crazy. But boxing is resilient. I'll give it that.
For sure, for sure. So we've got a good one here. Fernando asked, working with Lomachenko and other Russians, what are some of the major differences in training between the Russian style of training and North American style that you've seen?
Oh, that is an absolutely fantastic question, and so easy to answer. And unfortunately, it's liable to be insulting to our North American way of thinking of sport. The North American concept of sport, and I'm not just saying boxing, is primarily based on a volunteer basis, right? Oh, would you come out and help coach the soccer team? You know, would you come out and coach the football team or the baseball team? You know, and it's part of your you know, your volunteer work, right? And so we do that, and people build their career and their passions doing things like this. The Russian system is an evolution of the former Soviet Union. Now, obviously, that political system is not great, but from an educational perspective, we're light years removed from what they know scientifically, whether legal or illegally. You know, what they were doing back in the 70s, when we're obviously, we have no proof of this, but the doping and everything that went on, they were ahead of it by 20 years from the rest of the world, because their entire instruction, their entire belief on everything was based on technique and science. They don't believe in folklore stories. They don't believe in rah-rah. You know, that's not their thing. You know, that's not what they believe in. They don't believe in urban legend. If you say something, you have to be able to back it up with scientific fact. That's the way they are as a people. And being involved with the Lomachenko and Usyk camp made me realize that a lot. Everything they do, I mean, we'll tell our fight, we'll get a nutritionist, let's say, working with a fighter, and the nutritionist comes up with a dietary plan, you know, and said, it's good to eat your spinach because Popeye says you got to eat your spinach, and, you know, spinach is good for you, right? Well, we do all these meal plans or whatever without taking blood analysis. We don't determine what foods the athlete may need. None of this is based on any science. It's just based on, hey, spinach is good for you. Let's eat spinach. We need protein. Eat steak. You know, like there's no science behind what we do, especially when we're not evaluating the athletes individually and customizing that to their needs. We have a general idea, you know, generally it works, but it's the same philosophy that we've used in our hockey program, which maybe you can all relate to this hockey-wise. I've used in my coaching career, I've used the 33% rule, and we'll apply it to hockey. There are 33% of hockey players who are gifted and will succeed despite poor coaching, poor officiating, bad diet, poor lifestyle, any combination of those, they're going to succeed because they're naturally gifted. Then you have 33% who, even if they lived with Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky, will never, ever become an elite player, ever. They're just not going to make that. Then you have 33% in the middle. The 33% who are on the border of needing coaching, needing development, needing nutrition, needing support, needing education to get them over that hump. If we had that, if we address those people, our pool from which we could choose our hockey team would it be from 66% of the people who play the game and not only 33%. Mm-hmm. And I think we do that in boxing as well, where we pick the low-hanging fruit. And this was my generation was guilty of that. We came up with some success through no miracle of our own. It just happened that a flux of immigrants who came to Canada at that time, primarily from Jamaica, Pakistan, fighters emerged out of that group, and Boxing Canada pulled its suspenders and said, wow, what a great job we've done. And we didn't do it. We got lucky that those kids were good, and there was a big pool to choose from, and the cream emerged from the top. Despite the politics, despite the bullshit that went on in boxing, the cream came to the top as a result. But it's important that we develop that middle 33%. And that's why, again, back to what Jill said, how important it is to learn and educate, that you can do that. And you have so many great people there who have been through this, who can show you this and tell you, share their experiences with you. Don't let them die off. And the great ones are gone. Arnie is gone. Adrian's gone. Joe is gone. Matt Mazurski's gone. There's a lot of great talent. A.B. Pervin's gone. People that we could have learned from are gone. And then we're back. We keep going one step forward, 2 steps back. One step forward, 2 steps back. So to summarize the question, Russian coaching is based on a science. It's based on education. It's based on things that even I don't understand. And what I've taken from that over the years, there's no science that teaches you boxing technique. I mean, you learn the technique, and that's obviously the most important thing. I have now don't offer opinion, don't offer advice on strength and conditioning, nutrition. That's not my area of expertise. There are people whose area of expertise it is. My area of expertise is boxing technique, strategy, skill in the ring. That's my area of expertise. And I realize that all those other things surrounding it have to be done by people who have science, who have intelligence, who have facts, scientific facts, just like what we're dealing with now with COVID-19. The people who tell you, it's the flu. It's just like the flu. No, it's not like the flu. It's like pneumonia. And you can die from that very easily. So, you know, we need science. We need more intelligence. We need more education in coaching, because on a whole, in North America, we don't do that. We don't do it. We do it at the pro level. At the pro level, we pay for that service because there's money that comes in. At the amateur level, you're still a volunteer. And oh, thank you for helping us. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. You have an analytic team, I guess, that must analyze each upcoming opponent that you have that's on the roster coming up. Is that something that you have on your team, or do you bring them in for specific fighters?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to, what do you mean an analytical team?
So do you have someone on the team who analyzes the, opponent that's coming up, that's match made for your opponent coming, or for your athlete?
It's the team that works with the fighter. It's the training team that works, whether it'll be the matchmaker from whom the fighter is signed with promotionally. So let's say if we were to use Lomachenko as an example, Brad Goodman, who's the matchmaker, along with Bruce Trampler at Top Rank, they would be the first ones to say, this opponent, we think this is a good match for Lomachenko. They would then transmit this to Lomachenko's manager, who would say, he doesn't know, now he's got to check with the team, and checks with Papachenko, with Lomachenko's father. And then there, they would say, okay, this is the guy, what do you think? The manager will call me, he'll call Papachenko, we'll get the input from everybody to make an analysis on what we believe. Some do it without me, others involve me greatly. Like the fighters, a lot of the other fighters that I'm involved with, who are on their way up, or maybe it's coming to a unification bout, for example, with Jean Pascal. It used to be me, Mark Ramsey, Roy Jones, Luc Vincent Ouellet. We would sit down and watch video, and all of us would sit there arguing about how we should do this. But it was minds coming together to come up with the plan for Jean to have the success that he had, and arguably one of the most successful Canadians we've ever produced.
Mm-hmm. And I guess education is the foundation of all of that, understanding the sport and constantly educating yourself on it.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. I can't stress and again, the greatest minds in any field always go back to history, always go back to who did what before we were here. As long as we keep wrapping ourselves up in our ego and think that the world only started when YouTube came into play, and that the world is only as old as that, we're never going to have the success. We need to understand the greatness that came before us. When you hear fighters, when you hear people, especially old timers, hey, you don't know boxing the way it was. You don't know. Well, there's a certain reason for that. And you can ask guys who, I don't know if Sid was old enough to have gone through this, but when pro fighters used to weigh in on the same day. Sid, did you weigh in same day when you fought?
I'm trying to unmute you. Oh, hold on.
We should unmute everybody, because I'd like to hear everybody.
Sometimes same day, but mostly it was day before.
Day before. That's why fighters today, you hear the saying where people say, athletes today, they're bigger and stronger than they ever were. Well, if you were a welterweight, you're a welterweight. It doesn't matter. Boxing was the one sport that didn't change that, because a welterweight was a welterweight was a welterweight. That changed as well. Welterweights today would have been middleweights back when I started in boxing, because there's no way they make the weight that they make now on the day of a fight. And now we're weighing sometimes more, listen to what I'm telling you, more than 36 hours before a fight. More than 36 hours. You're not a welterweight anymore. You were a welterweight for 32 seconds, 2 days before your fight. By the time you walk into the ring, you're a full-fledged middleweight. And I'll have all of you go back and take a look, a relatively recent fight. Recent by my standards, recent. Roberto Duran against Carlos Palomino in a welterweight fight. And you look at them, and then go and look at Terrence Crawford today. It looks like two different weight classes. Crawford looks like he should be fighting Hagler. Middleweights today look bigger than Hagler looked, because they're not middleweights anymore. So that's a big difference.
Awesome. Sid, I have one more question here that's been sitting here. It's again, so Russ, comment on your experience as a commentator with CBC when Howard Grant fought in Seoul, and also what your experience was working with Roy Jones Jr.
Okay, well, these are great. These make for great long-winded answers. Great questions. I had been basically on the national team from 85 right through 88. So we were at the North American Championships in 85. We were in Bulgaria in 87 and Copenhagen in 87. And then the Olympic year in 88. And we were getting ready for the Olympics. Throughout our time, I had been in Olympic training camp, part of the coaching staff. Like, I was there, not officially named to the team, but part of the coaching staff. And God rest his soul. If Adrian was here, he'd be able to vouch for this for you. So would Matt Mazurski. So we were all part of the team, and there was myself, Kevin McDermott, who sadly passed away, another great guy, Mansour Ismail, who had worked with Willie DeWitt, and Brad Horty, who was with Scotty Olson. We were, I guess, the supplementary staff, and we all paid our own way, and off to Korea we went 2 weeks before the game started, with the promise that we're going to get our guest accreditation, which will allow us to continue doing what we have been doing for the last 3 years. So we get there, we are allowed to go to all the training venues, we do everything, and every day we're asking Ken Napper, who was the team manager, that Ken, where's our passes? Where's our accreditation? When are we getting our accreditation? Yeah, okay, it's coming, but. And then we started to realize that either Boxing Canada wasn't doing their job, or the Canadian Olympic Committee, was basically telling us, none for you. So the first day of competition, we had to buy a ticket. The people I mentioned, we all bought tickets to be able to get into the venue. Otherwise, we weren't going to be able to see our guys fight. So the first day we went in, and when the competition was over, all of us that I mentioned earlier went and got different members of the media from each of our cities. So I got the guy from Montreal, and Brad Horty got his guy, and we all got and we held like an impromptu press conference denouncing the Canadian Olympic Association to the fact that, we've been here for 2 weeks in Korea, been promised that we would get our accreditation, the games start, and we have no accreditation. This was just wrong. So we do this press conference. While we're at the after we finished the press conference, the guy who was the voice of boxing for the CBC at the time was a gentleman from Halifax named Doug Saunders. So I saw Doug, and I figured, well, this is a good opportunity, to tell him of our plight. I said, hey, yo, Doug, what's happening? Nice to see you. I'm Russ Anber. I'm Howard Grant's coach. Hey, Russ, nice to see you. How's everything? Tell him about the situation that's going on. He says, hey, I'll mention that. I said, great. Now, up until that time, Peter Wiley had been doing the color commentary for the CBC, or they had used him quite regularly when Sean was at the peak of his game. So I just blurted out, and I said to him, I said, by the way, who's doing color commentary for you guys? Because I figured this would be a good opportunity to get him on board for that.
Uh-oh, we might have lost Russ for a second there.
To offer us a little insight into the team.
Oh, sorry.
I said me, and he said, okay, you could, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we're good, I think.
Good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So he said, okay, you can do it tomorrow. So the next day I went on there and did it, and was really good. I think the first fight I did was Manny Sobral's fight. And I think Manny and Asif might have fought on the same day. So I did their fights, and that was the afternoon session. Came back for the evening session, and everybody on the team is saying, Russ, CBC's looking for you, CBC's looking for you. Now, as a result of the press conference we had denouncing the Canadian Olympic Association, when we got there, everybody had a guest pass now. We had to turn in our passports. We turned in our passports, they gave us our guest pass, and we were able to go. Get inside, everyone says, oh, CBC's looking for you. Okay, I go there. They say, Russ, CBC, they said, Russ, so what are you doing for the rest of the games? I said, I'm here. He says, they loved your stuff. They want to keep you on for the rest of the games. I said, perfect. And that began my career as an analyst, and I did 6 Olympic games. So I started at the top, and I've been working my way down ever since. So Yeah, it was, that was fun. And what was the second part of the question was, I'm sorry.
The second part of the question was
That would be a little bit-
also your experience with working with Roy Jones Jr.
Oh, you know, Roy is a great friend of mine, and we've become great friends. I really consider him a dear friend. Of course, as you know, Otis Grant fought him back in 1998 when he was at the peak of his game, and obviously we weren't friends then. This happened when we got into training camp with Jean Pascal, when Jean was getting ready for the fight with Lucian Bute, and Jean, who Roy was his idol, decided to bring Roy into camp, and Roy lived with us in the house where we were. So, you know, I get up in the morning and I'm having, you know, frosted flakes and all, because I'm not on a diet, right? Oh, look at it. And I'm having breakfast with Roy Jones and we're talking boxing. And we became friends as a result of that. And more and more, Roy started, like, we talked boxing, and Roy is he's a very smart boxing man. When you've seen him on his broadcasts, to me, he's one of the best color commentators in the game. The fact that he's not on the air right now is criminal, because he puts all those other guys to shame. He tells it like it is, and he understands boxing.
Oh, we lost you again, Russ, for a second there. Oh no, okay. Might be having some technical difficulties. I was about to ask Russ if he, here, I'll unmute Sid here. Maybe he'll come back. He's stuck in a good little position there.
Okay. Gotcha.
I was gonna ask Russ if he had ever, if he'd ever gotten into Roy Jones's music. Did you ever get into that? He has an album. For those of you guys who don't realize it, Roy Jones has a pretty good album. We used to get really pumped up in boxing.
Yeah. Roy Jones has some great fighting music, definitely. And RG and I are planning to bring Russ in for a seminar to do hand wrapping and obviously to tell his stories. The thing with Russ is he has to, like, if a fighter calls him to go to camp, he's got to go. So it's a struggle to try and pick a date, and we have to, like, time it where he definitely will not have to go to camp. So that's been the struggle, getting Russ in to do the hand wrapping seminar, but we'll make it work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for pulling him together, because I know that usually to get a hold of him is pretty difficult because he's really busy, and we all usually are. So this has actually been really cool. Is there anything that, unfortunately we lost him there, but is there anything that you wanted to add kind of to Russ before we kind of close up today's session? We're about half an hour over, but most of you guys stuck around, which is really awesome.
Yeah, no, cool. I mean, and, you know, just to reiterate, again, we kind of keep going back to Jill and kind of what she brought up, but just the education piece, just, you know, and especially now if we can get stuff online, it's really coaches to take advantage of that, really take advantage of the time to get your knowledge, increase your knowledge, and we can bounce things. Again, don't be afraid to reach out to, you know, Mandy and Jill and myself and to just other coaches now, because the funny thing is right now, like, talking boxing exhilarates us. It's what we want to do. So you can call another coach and be like, just start talking boxing, pick their brain, and they're going to love to talk about it, because usually we're getting together every week or every 2 weeks at a fight show. Well, that's not happening anymore. So where do we talk boxing, right? Where do we get
right here? I guess we're gonna have to do it right here.
Right, exactly.
I've unmuted the rest of you guys. If there's anything you guys wanted to add before we close up, Jill, you know, you've provided a lot of really good information. I kept on referencing you. Russ kept on referencing you. I think we all will. So I think that this is going to be the beginning of something really great. Is anything that you wanted to say to close up?
No, I'll make my slides available so people have those links, and if people have questions about courses or something, I'm always available.
Good. I'm sure we'll definitely take advantage of that. And Mandy, thank you so much for joining us as well. Really great information. Really inspired by the fact that you had a baby 16 months ago. You're back in training. You were ready to fight in the Olympics this year. Now you've got an extra year of training. So really happy to have you here.
Thanks.
Awesome. And finally, look at you guys. It looks nice and dark now. You guys are great resources as well. Always been really good to us, and it's been an honor working with you, Olga, as a referee and judge. I can't wait to see what this is all going to start. I think it was really informative and really cool to see that we can get together like this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw a slide up for you guys, I guess, just so that whoever's watching this after the fact, if they've made it this far, because it was a little bit longer than we expected. So that was who we had. Oh, I guess I have to spotlight myself to actually see what I'm showing you guys. So I am going to do that, and I'm still learning how this works. So so basically, guys, if you guys can see that, I'm not sure if you guys are seeing my screen there. This was a great first meeting. We didn't have too many technical difficulties except for Russ exiting halfway through his awesome, he's got so much to say and it's really great. So I feel really lucky that we got to hear from him. But I guess what's up next is we have to keep the dialogue open with our members, with our clients. We're going to use this forum as an opportunity to submit your questions, concerns, and challenges along the way. Submit your topics, ideas for future meetings and meetups. Again, you can do that through the email. I sent you guys lots of emails, been lots of correspondence coming through. And keep updated via Boxing Ontario, because we always update that, and we're always able to share with you guys the most recent material. And actually, we have set up a COVID-19 update page to keep everybody updated with the newest information, even meetups. I would say that for those of you guys who are on here still, if there's any ideas you have before we close the meeting down, throw them into the chat, and we can definitely try to work up some new meetings and take it from there. But I am super honest. I am super honest, super honored to have been able to spend this time with you guys. And at this time, I guess 2 hours later, we're done for today. And I think a lot of you guys are probably going to go to bed because our sleep schedules are all off, or you're going to stay up for the rest of the night. But thank you guys all so much. We'll see you guys. Actually, here, you know what? Let's do a group picture. Hold on. I think we can, I heard that we can do this if everyone still has their camera. Oh, Russ is back. You know what? Hold on. Sorry.
All right, group picture for Russ. Dude.
There we go. We're gonna get.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I talked too much. My internet crashed.
We were just closing up, but you were mid-conversation or mid-topic. Do you remember what you were saying still?
I believe we were talking about
Roy Jones.
Roy Jones, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So how I became friends with Roy, that we would end up arguing. I think he gained a certain respect for my knowledge of boxing and my history of boxing. And one day we go into an HBO meeting, and Roy says to the people that are at HBO, he says, "You see this guy there?" He said, "I'd send my fighter anywhere in the world with this guy right there." And he pointed at me, and I was like, "Wow." And Jim Lampley said, "That's a hell of a compliment coming from Roy." And we've been friends ever since. And we're very great pool competitors as well. Everywhere we go in the world, we play pool against each other. So he's a great, great guy. And I can easily get Roy, you know, anytime I want, I can call him. He answers the phone, and no problem. He's a wonderful, wonderful man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming back and joining us and finishing that topic off. Hopefully we get you a little bit more if we hold these. Can't wait to feature you again if you have time. Let's do I think I was just about to take if you guys want to throw your cameras on, I was about to take a group picture with everybody who's still left here. Mostly everybody stuck around, which is awesome. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, let's get a group shot. Yeah. I was gonna say, you know, in next time it would be great if everybody's mic was open and we could exchange dialogue and talk, and you know, that's that instead of just listening to me, it would be lovely to hear what others had to say, whether they agreed or disagreed with anybody that has something to say, because that's how you create education, is when people can talk and interact, and you know, not just give me the microphone and let me blabber on, you know. Yeah. Definitely. Well, you know what? I'm just learning how this all works, and apparently you can open up the mics so everybody can talk at the same time. Absolutely. But amazing. All right, well, guys, let's do a final wave. Give us your fists, your best boxing poses. Very good. Awesome. All right, guys, thank you guys all so much, and look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you so much, Russ, and all of the speakers who joined us.
Thank you, Russ. Much appreciated, brother.
Stay healthy, stay safe, everybody.
All right, man.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.